Hello, good morning, good afternoon. This is Dawn Westmoreland, hailing from Asheville, North Carolina, the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains, coming from WPVM LP FM 103.7, the Voices of Asheville. You know, we've been talking about safety, psychological safety in the schools, in the workplaces. It's such an important thing to so many people. And I've interviewed people that have come at it at different angles. You know, some people want to talk about strategies to take out the active shooter or the person who's acting violence. Some people talk about the human element. So today I have Dr. Dr. Jerri Johnson. She likes to be called Dr. J. Hi, Dr. J.
Hi, good morning, Dawn. It's good to be here with
Hey,
you.
I have to give a shout out to Dr. Summer Watson because she put us together. She mentioned you've got to meet Dr. Johnson. She's a wealth of knowledge. She's a wonderful person. And anytime Summer says you got to meet somebody, I don't hesitate. And let's kick it off. You know, we have issues right now where parents are just terrified, staff in the schools are terrified, children are traumatized. Oh my goodness, so much is going on. Let's kick it off there. Tell us your background because I think it's really important. You've had so many important roles.
Oh, yes. I started out as a teacher way back when. I'm not going to date myself. Uh, but over 20 plus years in education, I have had the opportunity to serve in different positions from classroom positions at multiple grade levels all the way to district office staff. I also have been a director of education where I was involved with grants for schools and programming in schools and in a certain community in St. Louis, Missouri, even though now I'm in Texas. And currently I am consulting for a couple of learning companies. So I'm still involved with schools, kids, leaders, teachers, all of that. So education is my jam.
Yes. So this is so good that you have this background. So let me ask you, what is your take on how we create psychological safety in the schools with all the mass media talking about active shooters?
Okay. Um, what I'm gonna say, I guess the first thing is this is not new to school staff.
Yeah.
Um, school staff, educators have been used to having, active shooter drills, what we call intruder drills, things like that. So it's not anything that we hadn't thought about before COVID, like a long time before COVID, or even, now we were just tightening up certain processes, procedures, and systems because of the amount of violent acts that are being done in schools. So I think that the biggest thing, and I had a chance to watch your previous show with Mr. Nader, which was awesome, by the way. I love him to death already. Was basically when he talked about prevention, like being proactive in the process of creating a safe environment for people, because like people are now understanding, and
Mhm.
educators knew a long time ago, you need that emotional mental safety, you need that psychological safety, you need also the physical safety piece, right? But we have tried our best as educators to create that. However, at a district level and at a leadership level in a building, you are more responsible for creating that environment,
Mhm.
excuse me, for everybody. So it's more stepping out of yourself as a leader, stepping out and looking at, all of these people that you are responsible for on a daily basis, all of these people that you want them to come to school feeling safe. Um, Even though if we walk out of our houses, we already know you know what I'm saying? Anything can happen the minute that we walk out
Yeah.
of our house. But when we go to work, we definitely want to have the feeling of safety. Creating those types of spaces is really on the leader. It is a huge task to create that type of space, but it is possible, you know. Um, it is a daily charge to do that. And it is a thing about consistency in your behavior as a leader. that safety is key, and safety is number 1, 2, or 3, should be in your top 3 priorities on your list as a school leader or as a district administrator. So even if you're sitting in district office, you should still be worried about safety in schools. You know, even though you're not the leader of a school on a daily basis, there are things at the district office level which create the processes, procedures of safety, you know, drills and things like that. And they bring people in, like Mr. Nader said, they can bring people in to talk about these things or train, you know, educators. So it's a part of the district office as well, and our school boards, to be able to think about this and push those priorities down. Many times states have state school boards. Their education school boards have a lot to do with that as well, because they're creating policy for the state, because they run the schools basically. Even though some schools receive federal funds, most of their funds come from state and local taxes and funding. So, you know, the state has a huge part in prioritizing that too. We give a lot of leeway to our school boards, but on a lot of our school boards in districts, they're not former educators. So they have no idea on a daily basis how the school moves, you know, how teachers move, how the kids move, you know, the safety issues that you may have with 20, 25 different multiple doors and hallways and, you know, theaters and all this type of stuff. There's a lot of things that can go on in a school in the course of a day in the different hallways or crevices or doors, entries and exits that students can go in and out of, or people can go in and out of, that you have to think about, you know, and the leaders in those schools have to worry about. So it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot, but it's doable. And I'm sure we have schools around this country that feel safe when they go to school. You know, kids feel safe when they go to school. Teachers feel safe when they go to school. But it definitely needs to be a priority for us. But I don't think that, and I hate to say that, I don't think that guns in school are the answer at all.
And I'm glad that you made that comment, because, you know, some people think that it is, and, you know, we try to, you know, be pro cons of guns and, you know, different strategies in the schools that make, you know, people feel safe and, you know, keep them safe. Why? I'm curious, what are your thoughts on having guns in school?
Once again, it's guns around kids. You don't always have trained adults, number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, as far as safety goes with a weapon. Number 2, if guns are inside the school, who's to say a kid won't get to a gun before an adult will? Number 3, if the guns are locked up, who's to say the adult that is in charge of, you know, getting that gun out or whatever is going to be able to get to it fast enough? And what if that adult is not there that day? I mean, the whole thing is, it's like Mr. Nader said, like you're putting the cart before the horse. I just don't think that it is a smart choice, an intelligent choice, when you know how a school operates every day, to put guns inside of a school. I just don't. And to have teachers carrying them, you know, mind you, in different states, you know, they can carry anyway, but typically on school grounds, you cannot. Once again, what if a kid gets to it in an altercation, either with a teacher or another student, and the teacher's trying to stop it? What if a student gets to that, and then with the school's going to be blamed for that? Because it's not going to be the people that allowed the teachers to bring guns to school that are going to say, oh, like crap. that could actually go on in this process. And once again, people who have never run a school, or, you know, just because you went to school does not mean you know how a school runs. People who have never run a school or been a leader in a school making these types of decisions, It's fine, make your decision. I just don't feel it's an intelligent and well-informed decision.
Okay. Last week, I won't say where it happened. Somebody very close to me reached out and said that two children got suspended. They were very young children, under 12. And one had brought in a fake gun, just a toy gun, and the other brought in a BB gun that when they examined it, it couldn't have worked anyway. What are your thoughts on that? How do we deal with children who maybe they did it innocently? I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm not in their heads, but how do we handle situations like that when children do things like that?
Once again, it's going to depend on the state, and there is a federal Safe Schools Act. Um, if a child brings a weapon on campus, they can be expelled. So depending on the state, if they deem that to be the BB gun, let's just say the BB gun, if they deem that to be a weapon, then the school district can take, the steps to expel that student if they wanted to, whether the intent was there or not. It's just a violation of Safe Schools Act. That's federal law. So, and also depending on the policy of the school district, once again, the student code of conduct, school districts make their school boards approve the policies. School districts make a student code of conduct depending on the cascade for offenses and its corresponding action. If they wanted to, they can suspend those students, no matter what the intent, depending on how the policy is written. So it's very important that we look at the state school boards of education and the people that we are electing, and thinking about the people who are actually creating these policies and things for our schools. Look at your school board. They're approving, creating policy for things that they have no idea about most of the time. I'm just going to say, and it's not
Oh
to
boy.
down anybody. It's to say, if you don't have doctors on a medical board, how do they know what doctors are supposed to be doing? Or surgeons or chief of staff. Like, if you have never served in an educational organization in those different levels, like, how do you know what's supposed to be going on? So I am not going to confirm or deny that the decision was appropriate. I don't know what the policies of that school district are. I do know the federal act, like I said, the Safe Schools Act is still in motion. So if they deem that to be a weapon, the school district can move legally within those ramifications. I don't think a lot of people understand educational law. And many times we have to look at those policies and those laws, and we have to move according to that if we don't want to end up in court, or something, just say something happens down the line and they say, I brought this gun to school before, it didn't get suspended, it didn't get any consequences. Well, it's okay to bring another one. I mean, at some point in time, life gives you consequences. But in the school district with other children around as well, we have to give consequences as well. So, not to say that I agree with it or I don't, I'm just saying. It can happen depending on the school district and the policies that they have in place for student code of conduct.
Thank you for that. Now, Dr. J, I want to ask you this. Should parents have a say in security in the schools? Should they have any say? Should they be listened to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so this is my thing. Let me get a little comfortable with it. I believe parents should have input into, various things that go on in school districts. Don't have a problem with parent input. I never had problem with parent input as a leader. There are some things, however, that need to be explained to parents when they bring up certain ideas or things like that, because they don't know, once again, they don't know educational law. They
Mm.
don't know background. So as much as you can give them within the confidentiality of, the legal ramifications of education, as much information as you can give parents to inform them so that they're making an informed either opinion or decision is what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
In some of our most neediest communities, parents aren't able to give those types of opinions or decisions. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they may have had bad school experiences, or they don't feel like their opinion is valued. They've had some, run-ins with the school district before or what have you. And we do have, districts that run like that. Like the parents, it doesn't matter what the parents say, we know best. Da, 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 da. No, parents are their child's first advocate. You need to be informed and you need to speak up for your child and the school if there is a problem or an issue, period. And they need to be heard. Even if you're not going to move on their decision or their opinion or what have you, you need to let them know that they're being heard and that you will try your best to accommodate. But if you cannot, this is why I cannot. This is why we can't do this. Now, if we can work within these boundaries or this framework, then I can help you. Um, Parents definitely need to say something because it has to be a partnership. I have an issue with the fact that we have, some of these school shooters and everything's coming back on the school when parents knew something
Mm-hmm.
was wrong. At some point, something is wrong with your child. And there are just instances where parents don't want school staff or whoever talking to their child about what's going on at home or what's going on with them. It's like what stays in Vegas, what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. Like I said it in my book, some parents think what goes on at home needs to stay at home. Okay, well then let's make the agreement that you're gonna agree that anything you hear about me at school, you agree or you listen to 50% of it, and I'll listen to 50% of what your child says about you at school. So my thing is it needs to be a partnership and the information needs to continuously flow. It shouldn't be parents against school. It should be parents with school so that the child understands that it is a partnership. And if your teacher calls me or your principal calls me, then I'm going to believe what they say first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk to them. And then if, something ain't right, then yeah, I'm not going to believe. But you don't have to tell a child that, you
Right.
know. So absolutely parents need to have say in the safety of what's going on, because there are some communities where if they see a police officer at the school, they
Mm.
don't feel safe with a police officer at the school. They feel safer with an SRO than
Okay.
they do with a police officer. Two different things. SROs typically are, a little bit more community based, a little bit more, they know the families and things like that because they're in the community all the time, at the school all the time. Police officers typically are not. And we have a lot of communities of color that don't trust them. So if you have a police officer at the school and a parent comes up there, they're they're going to be deterred from even wanting to talk to anybody and may not even go in. So we need to listen to parents when it comes to issues of safety. I'm not saying that we're going to make every decision and make them happy and say yes to everything,
Mhm.
but they definitely need to be heard.
And for the benefit of the readers, as the readers listen to me, I need more coffee, listeners. What is an SRO? I know what it is, but you might
It's
want to
a
tell.
school resource officer.
Yeah.
So they typically are hired by the school district. And
Okay.
so since they're hired by the school district, many times they know the community a little bit better because, you know, they're applying to this school district as a SRO or what have you. And then they're at the school every day and they have more of a intervention type role and not a punitive role in the school. So when you see police officers, you know, with the gun and, you know, handcuffs, all that type of stuff, it seems more punitive that if a police officer comes to the classroom door and says, I need to see Mr. Haynes, you know, or, you know, one of the students. I called my students by Mr. and Miss. Like they had to call me, but I need to see Mr. Haynes. You know, police officer comes to the door. The student is probably going to be more apprehensive about going with the police officer than they will the SRO that they see on site every day. It's just a different feel that, you know, I've seen happen in a lot of schools, and I've only worked in, you know, urban demographic schools. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Really quickly, could you tell us how schools that don't have a lot of money, for example, I'll give you my story. You know, when we were I was 7 years old, we moved from Fort Lauderdale up to North Florida to the second poorest county in Florida. All right. And my parents wanted to be out in the country. And this was a very, very poor school. How do schools that don't have money, how do they keep their schools safe?
That's an awesome question, because that was kind of just the point I was trying to make earlier, is that it's a mindset of safety first. Many schools that don't have the funds for SROs to be on site every day, they may come once a week. You know, they may travel from school to school, or even if you have a local police force, they may travel from school to school, you know, every other day or what have you, and just pop in and say, I'm here for an hour or two or what have you. So there's ways that they do it where they can minimize the cost, but you don't have as many people, which means that those people are spread thin and they're only on campuses for some hours, maybe every other day or once or twice a week. That's why I said, what happens if the person who is in charge of the firearm or who has the code to the safe or the firearm is not there every day? The mindset and the posture of the leader and the staff has to be that safety is first. So, and once again, if it's not first, then it's a close second or third. It should be your top three. Because if the kids don't see the adults feeling safe, feeling comfortable, what have you, how can you go to school and teach every day and you don't feel safe? It comes out eventually in your behavior against or towards kids or the other staff. So my thing is, it has to be a posture, a consistency, a mindset that you have, that I am here to keep you safe. I used to tell staff, I am here to keep you safe. I'm here to keep kids safe. I am your safe keeper. So any way that I operate, if I ask you to close a door, if I ask you not to put this, you know, in the door, or if I ask you to go walk down this hallway for me and make sure there's no kids in the bathroom or something like that, I'm trying to keep people safe. It's not about giving extra work to anybody. I'm trying to keep people safe. So it has to be a consistency in your behavior, in your words, matching your behavior. And then you are expecting that, you are inspecting what you expect from staff, that their behavior is of safety as well, in and outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
So, you know, not every school has all this, like you said, not every school district has all this money to be spending on people power. So when you are in the school, your power is in the people in that school.
Thanks, Dr.
And
J.
that's the
I got to cut you off. We're out of time.
It's
Can you
okay.
please tell people how they can connect with you? We need to have a second interview with you because you're just got so much good information. How do people reach out to you to find out more about you and your services?
I am on LinkedIn, and my email address and everything should be on there. That would probably be the easiest way to reach me, unless you want to reach me at Dr. Jerri J. It's DRJERRIJ @gmail.com.
Thank you, everyone. Stay empowered.